Good morning, everyone, in the good afternoon, good evening, and good midnight in the 5 continents. Today is the 6th of November, believe it or not, 2022. And this morning we have a great friend, a wonderful speaker, a wonderful human being. Thank you, dear Monica Rodriguez Salvo from Argentina, for the time you are going to spend with us this Sunday.
Thank you, Jaime. Thank you for inviting me once again. It's always a pleasure to share with this beautiful community that has grown so much, right?
Yes.
Since the beginning. Remember our first sessions?
Yes, I do remember. It's
so
been
congratulations on that.
Thank you. As I tell every guest speaker, this wouldn't be possible without you, without people like you, that it's a Sunday and they say, okay, let's see what happens. Okay, let me share my screen and my PowerPoint presentation to see what is going to happen the following days. Okay, it's taking some time. Or okay, it is it. Okay, as I said before, this is our 89th International English online meeting. Oops, it's frozen.
It's okay, Jaime.
Yeah, okay. I always say that this always happens to the best guest speakers in the world. So today is November the 6th, 2022. This is our 89th International English Online Meeting. So who is presenting soon? We have these 3 great human beings. Sorry for saying that. Mary Scholl from Costa Rica and the USA. Raj Gill from Canada. There is a blackout in the city where Raj Gill lives in Canada now, so that's why she's absent. And myself, we will be talking about ways of expressing gratitude and the impact it has on us. That'll be on Sunday.
Lovely topic.
Yeah, okay. And finally, we will have our 92nd International English Online Meeting with the Roundtable Encouraging Professional Development in Latin America with Katie Ramirez from Asocopi, Colombia, Eugenia Carrión from FAAPI, Argentina, Soledad Calle from Beta, Bolivia English Teacher Association from Bolivia, Tito Hidalgo from TESOL, Ecuador, Celia Sanchez from Mexico, Anupi, and finally Arturo Phil from Sociedad de Profesores del Perú from Peru. So if you want to contact me, anybody who wants to contact me for whatever you want, even money, this is my WhatsApp number. I mean, to lend me some money. So who is presenting today? Monica Rodriguez Salvo. Let me say a few words about Monica. She is a graduate teacher of English and a sworn public translator. She holds a postgraduate degree in human resources management by Universidad de Belgrano. She's a certified and accredited neurolanguage coach. She's also a mindfulness practitioner, graduated from University of California, UCLA. She holds a diploma in social and emotional learning from San Diego University. She currently runs her own educational institution, Inspire Consultora Educativa, reaching out to hundreds of students and teachers around the world. She has presented extensively in Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, Brazil, IATEFL UK, Peru, Germany, TESOL France, TESOL Spain, ASCD United States with plenary, semi-plenary, and workshop sessions. She has authored 3 social and emotional learning sections and activities for different levels and books. And she's a guest professor at Universidad de San Andrés, Argentina, and teacher of the social and emotional learning module at Singularidade Institute, Brazil. So thank you so much, dear Monica. And the most important, she is a great human being. So thank you, dear Monica, for giving part of your Sunday morning. I know you have a family. I know that it's 11:38 in Argentina, so we hope to finish before lunch.
Yeah, so let's do it. Thank you so much, Jaime. Welcome, everybody. I'm always happy. I was sharing some messages with Jaime the other day, and I was telling him how important it is, I think, to create this sense of community, right? And he has been a great ambassador in terms of creating different communities and this special community that has grown so much. So I would like to thank you, Jaime, in name of everyone,
thank you so much, dear Monica,
for your hard work and for keeping up with this great space for learning, right? Where we all teachers meet to learn. Isn't that great?
Yes. And before you start, dear Monica, let me say hello to Debra Suarez from the USA, Ron Moren,
hi, Debra,
who is in Germany, and Roxana Tenorio, good 3 friends of mine now. So thank you for being here this morning. Go on, Monica.
Welcome, everybody. Okay, so let's get started. I prepared something special for you today, something I've been working on lately. That is related to, of course, as you know, I am a specialist in social and emotional learning. And I have talked at different moments in this space about the importance of emotions in the learning process and how they can propel or hinder learning processes. But today I wanted to share something different because I've been on the coaching path for the last years. I have, earned my credentials as an international coach and as an educational coach. And I wanted to share my learning journey in a way, in terms of incorporating some of the educational coaching aspects into our daily teaching. And for that, there is something that I created to share with teachers, that is the SPARK model. And the SPARK model, I will go through each of the steps, hopefully today with all of you. But it's based on what I consider are some of the most important drivers in education today, especially in the post-pandemic world of education. So let me share with you my screen so that I can start sharing my presentation. And let me just go back to my idea of the SPARK model. The SPARK model stands, it's an acronym for different drivers, I would say, that I really believe in education. S stands for self-inquiry and curiosity. P stands for purpose. A stands for agency. R stands for reassurance through growth mindsets, another thing that I really believe in and that I have been implementing in all my teaching areas lately. And K stands for kindness and social activism. So let me just walk you through a little bit with some examples. Okay, the idea is to share, of course, some frameworks of implementation, but also some practical ideas so that teachers can hopefully go back to their classes with some hands-on activities to implement with students. Okay, so let's start with self-inquiry. And self-inquiry, I love this quote by George Bernard Shaw: progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. So I would like to start by saying that self-inquiry is, for me, one of the most important drivers in education today. We need to spark curiosity in our classrooms. We need to help our students connect with curiosity again, because self-inquiry and inquiry-based learning are fundamental from my perspective for the next step that we will develop today, that is agency in the classroom. But have you noticed how difficult it is for us humans to change our minds, to think and rethink about the world around us? So self-inquiry and inquiry-based learning is about this idea of relearning, being curious again, and igniting the power of questioning. And this is where my coaching influence will come to. Sparking again, igniting the power of questioning. And when I was at school, nobody taught me how to make good questions. But at this time, I guess that the accelerating pace of change means that as teachers and as humans, we need to question our assumptions and our beliefs more readily than ever before. I think that we really need to teach our students how to make good questions about the world around them. But are we teaching how to make these questions and to be curious about themselves, about the world around them, and even about us, right? About ourselves, about teachers, right? Are we helping them be these citizens that can create good questions about their environments? And this, of course, is not an easy task, because as we sit with our beliefs, probably you've noticed that as we sit with our beliefs, these beliefs tend to become more extreme, right? More entrenched, more ingrained. And our brain is lazy. That's another thing we know from neuroscience, right? Our brain is lazy. So creating these new neural connections is really hard work for our brain. So whenever we are rethinking, we are questioning ourselves, it's really about relearning about the world around us. So this is like the introduction about self-inquiry and inquiry-based learning. And I wanted to share with you some of my new learnings, some of the things that I have relearned lately, and how an understanding, in a way, how our brains constantly struggle to change our minds. As you know, I am a specialist in social and emotional learning. And one of the most accepted theories in my field is, probably you have heard about Paul Ekman's theory of emotions, right? Paul Ekman's theory of emotions identify different basic emotions and their correspondent facial expressions to go with each of those emotions, right? But then I relearned something about this. And I learned about the work of Dr. Lisa Barrett and her team. So let me just give you an example. Have a look at this. What emotions are being depicted in this image? You can just write in the chat if you want so that I can read you. What emotions would you say are present in this woman's face expressions? What would you associate with it? Anger, excitement, victory, anger, rage. Okay. The most accepted, let's say, and the most common emotions associated with this picture are precisely anger, rage, maybe fury, and so on. But let me share with you, that this, in fact, when we zoom out, yes, this was like a zoomed in version of the picture. This is a zoomed out version of the picture. And this is, in fact, Serena Williams in 2008, after beating her sister Venus in the US Open finals. And this is a great example that Lisa Barrett gives us about how important, in terms of understanding a situation, how important setting and context is for understanding, right? So Lisa Barrett is a great teacher for me because she helped me relearn what I had learned from Paul Ekman's theory of emotions. And now she comes with a different perspective, and she's enriching my own understanding of emotions and their expressions in our face, in our bodies, and how we humans manifest emotions, right? So according to Lisa Barrett's team and research, not all gestures directly lead to a named emotion, okay? The thing with universal laws is that they have this habit of losing their universality. So there are universal laws, but they are changing all the time. And we live in a world that is constantly changing and constantly evolving. And I'm still struggling with this idea because I used to teach, you know, Paul Ekman's theory of emotions. And probably you have heard me share material about the theory of emotions. So I was struggling, you know, with myself. And I said, so is everything I've been teaching wrong? And then I came to understand that maybe it's not about one thing or the other. I think that we live in a world that has to be a world of ands and not so much a world of ors. What I mean by this is, it's not one thing or the other. It is one thing and the other, because Lisa Barrett's work came to enrich my previous knowledge by Paul Ekman's theory of emotions, right? So it's about all of them. It is about integration. It's about relearning. It is about questioning ourselves. Another thing I learned is that probably this is a real image of a T-Rex, of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Can you believe it? Apparently, according to the latest research, the T-Rex used to be a feathered T-Rex. And I'm still struggling with this idea in my mind because I could have never imagined that the ferocity of the T-Rex, and now it comes with feathers. So some examples of how I'm rethinking and how we struggle and our brains struggle, you know, with new ideas, and how fantastic it is to rethink and to re-ask ourselves about the world around us. So Anam Grant says this great phrase that the purpose of learning is not to affirm our beliefs, but to evolve our beliefs. And for this, my dear teachers, we need humility, right? Because if knowledge is power, knowing that we don't know or that we don't know something yet would be wisdom, probably. So we are talking about humility over pride, doubt over certainty, curiosity over closure, right? So teachers say a lot of things not to rethink, because we already explained that, you know, our brain struggles with rethinking. And we say a lot of things not to rethink. We say things such as, this is the way things have always been done here. This is not going to work with my students. I know what works for them, right? And we try to avoid the circle of rethinking and asking ourselves questions. So my invitation today would be to connect to the power of questioning. But the thing that we teachers, another aspect that I wanted to mention here, and then I will ask your opinions about this, is what happens when we make, as Jaime was making at the beginning of this session today, a good question. What happens when we craft together with our students, and this is what I will propose later in my presentation, what happens when we craft this question and we shoot it into the air? We teachers have a tendency, and that tendency, I guess, is not very healthy. So I would suggest that we teachers need to shut up for some minutes. And I know probably this is like the most difficult idea you will be struggling with today, because we teachers don't shut up. We feel uncomfortable with silence, right? We shoot a question, and if there is not an immediate answer, we start shooting answers, right? Or possible answers, or we start guiding our students into possible answers to that question. So I'm suggesting here that we really need to be still for some minutes. Don't move, don't make a sound, because in those seconds, we are offering our students the possibilities to silencing our minds. And in silencing our minds, we are silencing our need to be right. We teachers have also a tendency that we teachers need to be right? So we need to silence that voice. We need to formulate an appropriate response and truly listen. You know, when we talk about active listening, so truly listen to them. And when we silence our minds, and when we are open to whatever our students have to create and craft as an answer to this very good question we created together, we started discovering other aspects in them that probably we've never seen, because we've been so busy giving answers ourselves, right? Because this is what we believe as teachers we should do. So let's stop judging our students. Let's create a culture of silence in our classrooms so that we give them the opportunity to rethink, and we give ourselves the opportunity of silencing for some seconds our minds so that they become their own agents in responding the original question. So what do you think about this? I would like to hear some thoughts or read some thoughts, in this case in the chat. Yeah?
Yeah, well, if you allow me.
Or we can speak.
Yeah, much better, dear Monica. If you allow me, good morning, dear Mary Scholl. Hi.
Mary.
Well, you have said so many beautiful things. I'm writing a book now. I would like to start by the end. Let's stop judging. And I think that everyone now judges everyone, every single thing we do. And that is one of the big problems in our world. Well, that's my personal opinion. And you have talked about self-inquiry. Our brain is lazy, but it struggles with different ideas, theory of emotions, a world of ands, not a world of ors. We should evolve our thinking and beliefs, humility over pride. Teachers should shut up, and we should still be silent, give the students silent time, and we should truly listen. And I think that is something that I learned with Mary Scholl and Raj, to listen genuinely to our students. Ask genuinely, what is the question, dear Mary? I don't remember. When you listen genuinely to people?
Maybe, are you thinking about genuine curiosity or authentic
Yes,
curiosity?
genuine curiosity. We want to know what's going on with our students, but we don't have any previous idea. We don't judge them. I just wanted to say that. I don't know if there are people who would like to say something. Somebody else?
Well, Monica, you know, I'm a fan of yours, so I really appreciate, and also, you know, we share so much in common around this work. And just, you know, just the insistence that we create spaces of quiet where
essential.
Yeah, it's interesting. And part of that quiet for me is also slowing down a little bit. And I think sometimes for teachers, especially if I have 30 people in the classroom or 40 people, I'm like, how am I gonna quiet and slow down? You know, I think that's hard, but I think that it's so important. And I think that it's in that quiet place that if I'm feeling safe enough, I can work on evolving my beliefs, right? So
yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this because I suggested this idea to talk about coaching in education, and one of the most important concepts I've learned from coaching, which I love, and of course it's very much aligned to what you do, Mary, and I know that I deeply admire everything you do, is this idea of presence. You know, we can never be curious. We can never create this space for learning if we are not present in what we are doing, if we are not connected. And I know, because this is the nature of our lives, we are an automatic pilot, you know, and we know from research that 80% of our decisions are made on automatic pilot. But how about teachers being in presence in front of their students? And I will take what Jaime also said about judgment. And another thing I've learned a lot through coaching, it's to identify my labeling of students and teachers and people and my own judgments about them. Because we need to be honest, right? We label our students all the time. So what happens? And our students know it, because in many cases, we are very clear and very explicit about that labeling, right? And we continue repeating in the classroom, oh yes, of course it's you. Who else could ask that question? You are always a naughty boy. You're always the one distracted. You are the distracted one in the classroom. So of course you, okay? And we keep on reinforcing. So my question also here is, what happens when our students start embracing and owning that label? And they, of course, will continue performing according to that label, right? According to that judgment. So it is so important, but none of this may change if we cannot see ourselves as teachers in that situation, like separating ourselves and being in presence and saying, for some minutes, I will shut up because I really, and curiosity, authentic curiosity, which is the basis of inquiry-based learning, which is I'm sharing with you right now. That authentic curiosity can never happen if we don't stop, you know, if we don't, I don't know how we say, slow down, but we have this word in Spanish, ralentizar, right? Slow down what we do, disengage the automatic pilot. Okay, I will stop speaking. There are many hands up and I love that. So let's go with them.
Yeah, dear Ron in Germany, go on.
Hello, everybody. You mentioned something, you know, and quite a few people said that already about quiet time, you know, that learners need quiet time, and also teachers need to step back and shut up, or, you know, or be quiet. But, you know, you're putting that into a context of inquiry-based, you know, the inquiry-based approach of asking questions. And, you know, there's that cultural aspect of, you know, I think a lot of teachers get that wrong about the inquiry-based approach. They don't know how to use it as an effective teaching methodology and coaching methodology. That's, you know, that's something that, you know, teachers need to learn about. But, you know, people are calling it quiet time. I just call it think time. And I think if we use the inquiry-based approach correctly, you have to flip that kind of learning, because you can't just throw a lot of questions at a group of learners and expect them to automatically know the answers. They need think time. And so this is why with me, you know, I work with university students and PhD students. I give them the questions beforehand so that they have some time to think about it, do some research, reflect, so that when they do come to my online, you know, classes, they're able to answer the questions, and we can create interactive conversation. So I don't have to try to shut up. They're talking so much that I don't need to talk. So, you know, that's using the inquiry-based approach, I think, with a flipped methodology, where they get to really add and be creative and learn with each other. And I'm just sort of just like moderating the discussion. You know, of course, they're always topic oriented. We're always talking about something, and I become more Socratic. So that's a different kind of questioning, but getting them to think. They also, if I want them to think for themselves and to use their brain, then I have to give them some think time. And we have to think about how we're really using the inquiry-based approach, as well as being Socratic, to make learning really effective.
Thank you, dear Ron. And Roxy, very briefly, in Lima, Peru.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jaime. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I totally agree with all the things Monica has mentioned. And I really feel the emotions that she was talking about in the sense of the self-inquiry. Very important, no? We have to start talking to ourselves. We have to start talking to our inner. Our inner has to be reactivated in order to understand our external world. First us, then the other ones. And I love this kind of, I know what Ron says about the silence period, that is kind of hard, but it's a matter of training. At the beginning, the students would be probably shocked. They said, okay, I mean, at time, the teacher is in silence sometimes, the students misunderstand this and they think that if we are in silence, we are angry. And we are not, definitely. We are just giving them the time, right? And then this is a matter of training and make them then think about it and being part of that, that we are giving their time, that not everything has to be given immediately. It's not just not all knowledge, but emotions behind the knowledge. Okay, I don't want to continue talking a little bit more. Probably will participate a little again, but thank you, Monica, very much because of this, because it's something that we need to learn. Teachers, we need to learn to give students time to think. We cannot bombard them with all alternative answers and answer because they feel like, come on, give me my time, give me my space. I need to produce myself. And there's the idea of teaching, no? Sharing, giving them the time to produce, to make the mistakes, which are welcome, and then to give them the time. It's very hard to learn to listen. When we very little times we are really listening deeply, we are just only analyzing and thinking what we are going to say after that, contrary to listening. And I really appreciate the silence period. Silence period is a very good period for learning.
Thank you so much, dear Roxy. And back to Deborah, very briefly, please.
Thank you, Jaime, and thank you, Monica, for this. And the discussion is wonderful. So very briefly, I just want to share that what you're sharing with us about giving space and giving silent time or think time and giving our students that space, what is occurring to me is like I'm imagining that happening in the classroom. And what I'm thinking is it's a gift to students, but what you're saying is also a gift to ourselves. Because when we give that space, we can also gather our own thoughts. We can also then open up to the possibility of co-constructing knowledge in the classroom. So I just wanted to share that. I think that what you're saying, if we adopt those strategies, it's also a gift to ourselves as teachers and teaching in that moment. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Deborah. Back to you, Monica.
Thank you, everyone, for all your thoughts on this. I would like to think about the power of questioning as a craft. And I loved what Ron shared about this flipped approach to it. Because precisely if you use this thinking time outside the classroom, then of course the production period in the classroom might be much more fruitful. And I would just go even a step further to what you, Ron, shared about crafting new questions. You know, so I'm sharing on the screen right now, like something I have used with my adult students and adolescents as well, in terms of different steps, right, for the power of inquiry-based learning. And if you go to the last steps, it goes into curating original questions and shaping new ones, right? So when we help our students connect with the power of inquiry, with the power of thinking and rethinking, ideally, they should come up with even better questions than the ones they were answering or trying to answer before, right? And that would be, I guess, a healthy cycle in terms of the power of questioning and the power of inquiry-based learning. At the end, they should be having new, improved questions about the original questions we crafted together, right? So I love this idea of the flipped approach, so that it does not happen in classroom, but they have the time not only to think, but also, you know, through the flipped approach, do their own research, inform themselves, and come to the class with better, improved, crafted questions, right? Different than the original ones. And that would be tapping into the power of curiosity. That's what I was mentioning at the beginning. So, you know, to move from these idealized concept of inspiring our students to be curious again, but this would be the essential engine propelling better questions, right? And better craft questions. So what you've got right here is precisely like a set of different steps that you might use in class with your students to power the power of question, if you want, right? So let me move now into the P of purpose. Probably we won't have time today to cover all of them, but I'm sure there will be other opportunities for this. And the second point in my Spark model is this question of purpose, right? And I wanted to share that it's really very important to help our students connect with purpose, something that probably they have no idea of, right? And when we start asking them about their passions and the things that they are interested in, what happens to me is that, especially with teenagers, we come up with answers such as, I have no idea what I like. I have no idea what I'm good at. I don't know what my passion is. And so this is a great opportunity also as well to help them tap into their own engines and their own inquiries, if you want. This is a project that I did with the Ministry of Education here in Argentina, in one of our provinces in Corrientes, that was for secondary school students. Precisely, this was called the Spark project. And teachers had to design different ways of working with their students so that they might help them connect with their own purpose. And the final task of the Spark project was that students had to present. It was, of course, based, it was like problem-based in a way. And it was also connected to flipped instruction in some aspects. But at the end of the project, these secondary school students in their groups and teams, they had to present a project that created social impact, okay? So they had to come up with ideas on how to connect their own passions with something that might impact their environment and their communities. And these are rural communities, you know, in the provinces in Argentina. And these students came with beautiful projects that helped different in-need areas in their towns, in their communities, in the countryside. So the project was really very, very interesting. As you can see, they were working with their teachers because we trained their teachers, and they had like a different model. So what I wanted to share with you, if you want to start, I wanted to share what I did at the beginning, like a very short questionnaire that I used with students to help them start thinking about their own spark, their own passion, to start thinking about their own interest. And what they had to do was, in pairs, apart from the group final activity I just shared, they had to mentor each other in pairs about their sparks and their passions. So for example, if one of them said, okay, football is my passion, football is my spark, football is something that will drive my purpose in the future, or reading or dancing or whatever their passion was, they had to mentor each other into developing that spark. So maybe the other students would suggest, okay, I will go with you. If you haven't taken any dancing lessons yet, I will go with you. We'll register for a free class and I will be here to help you. So they were helping each other out and mentoring each other out so as to achieve, you know, better results and connect better with what they love doing. And this was like the starting point for teachers to work on content, right? Because there were teachers from all areas. It was not only English. Teachers from different subjects connecting to those passions and connecting points in the curricula to those passions so that we could finally help them connect with an agency. That is like my next step in the presentation. So that was like the part for Sparks and the projects that we have worked with. In terms of agency, agency is about centricity, student centricity. We have talked a lot about this. It's about giving students voice and choice, right? Sometimes that voice and that choice is limited, right? Because this is a reality. If we have 40 students in the classroom, we'll not be able to personalize probably to those and to cater for those 40 different needs. But even if it is a limited choice, students need to know that they are heard, that they are listened to, and that whatever voice they have in what we do is not only heard, but also translated into actions, right? And this is again about the power of questioning. This is again about giving our students the necessary space to connect to their inner motivation for learning. We teachers are always craving for motivation in the classroom. But motivation is not a magic wand that we just, we say, okay, now you are motivated, and now you are motivated, and now you are, it doesn't work that way. So agency is about helping our students connect with the power of inhabiting and being agents of their own learning process. And that is a very challenging, and this is where I want to stop and open up discussion, because as you know, helping them be more active and more present and more autonomous and self-driven in their learning processes is not something easy, because of the first point of centricity. Students are very much used to very, calmly sitting down, relaxing, and just listening to someone speaking, and between a lot of inverted commas, sharing knowledge in the classroom. But this is not how deep learning, lifelong learning happens. That happens when we are involved, right? When we are part of it, when we know that there are things we have to do. But that is also a challenge because our students are not used to that kind of knowledge, right? Of course, yes, I do agree. PBL is great methodology, absolutely. All right, so meaningful, deep learning, motivation, and autonomy. Our students becoming agents. And for that, we need to tap into their passions and purpose, because we know, and probably you have heard about Merin Mordino-Young's research about the salience network, right? The salience network in our brain, it's key for agency, but it's only activated through cognition and emotion working together. So the salience network apparently is the one that anchors both of them. And it is this salient interest, this spark for me, this interest, this passion that is going to drive my agency in terms of learning. So I need to be interested in that, or at least I need to recognize, the connections with whatever I do in my life, right? So we need to ignite our students' salience network so that they can understand what their passions are and how that can be a driver for better knowledge, and especially for curiosity, that it's what we first need to spark, as we said at the very beginning. Let's talk about thoughts on this. How do we spark the salience network?
Yeah. Could you show the slide before, the one before this one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the one on agency.
Something brief that I would like to say is about voice and choice. I love that, because if students must feel that they also are right, they also contribute to class, that not only the teacher is the only one who knows, because now it's a good moment to give them the voice and teach you and demonstrate you, and that we learn from them. And the other beautiful thing is about personalization. The way if we teach students to communicate, but not English, it will allow us and them also to talk about their lives, their families. And it happens to me that once the students start asking me, I feel like they feel. I feel nervous, I feel afraid, because I'm talking about myself. And I discover and I realize that I am another human being learning in class along with the students. So thank you for reminding us about these 2 or 4 or 5 beautiful things about agency. Is there someone else who wants to express his or her opinion? Raise your hand, please. Anyone else? Yeah, go on, Ron.
You know, developing student agency is one of the, I think it's a tough job for teachers when you're dealing with teenagers.
Very tough.
Yeah.
And I have to say that when I studied to be a teacher, I became a secondary school teacher. So I was working with teenagers, but, went on to private industry and for many, many years didn't work with teenagers. I do now work with teenagers on a voluntary basis. And I love it. It's a great thing. And, I use PBL, and that's why I mentioned PBL. But we got to give them problems. They need problems.
They need problems to solve.
And you got to get them to think about what those problems are. So they got to, what's happening in the community, what can they tackle, whatever. And if PBL is done correctly, it always ends with, making it public, inviting people for the presentations that, really make a difference. I've invited the mayor, the city council, school board people, the parents of the students, other companies into these presentations where the students feel that their work was really worth the time. And, they get excited about doing that because, they're putting on a show and they get feedback from these people. And that's important that they get feedback, not just from their teacher, the parents or whatever, but outsiders who, tell them that was important what they did. And I think another thing that is, to build student agency, meaningful, deep learning, that the students not only have to, go after their passions, that's one thing, and that's great, but they also have to develop skills.
Absolutely,
PBL is, they'll develop
PBL is
skills
great.
and they learn the technology, they learn research, and I speak German, so they're all German, so I do allow them to use their mother language, but I only meet them once a month on Saturday all day. We have breakfast and lunch together. The parents pitch in, pay for all of that. We don't charge for that. That's just the kids coming to want to learn. Yes, it's in English. And they have to present in English because they're developing their language skills as well. So, they learn to do knowledge transfer, and a lot of things are happening. A lot of skills are being learned along the way. I think that's really important that when we're doing deeper learning, PBL, and it's meaningful for them, that we got to always think about not just passions, but skill development, and how they're getting involved in the community, because that's what builds good citizenship.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we did this Spark model with secondary school students, I remember there was a group there at the end, of course, as a typical TBL model, there was the production and the show where they shared what they have worked with and the skills they had learned about different subjects, because this was not only English. And I remember especially the case of one group I want to share with you. They had very difficult problems. This was not about English, okay? This was the math teacher. This was secondary school, so it was not exactly about math, but they had a subject that is called finance. And the teacher had very, very serious problems engaging, of course, students with this, because students could not see the value and they were very demotivated and so on. After the process, this is what they did. they understood, they got in touch because one of the students' grandparents was at an institution, you know, for elderly people. And this institution had finance problems. They needed help, but they couldn't afford an accountant to help them. So together with the teachers, students created this project where they helped this institution with their finance aspects. And the final product, let's say, the show, the broadcast to the community was these students presenting how they had helped this elderly people institution, you know, deal with their finances. And they were so proud of the work they had done, because through the development and through the learning of all the different skills, in this case was finance, but English was also involved because they had to present in English as well, and so on. They were so proud of what they did because they could see that they had learned a lot about finance, let's put it this way, but they had impacted their community. And now that elderly people's house was working better where one of the grandparents lived. And this touched the students' life. And it was so emotional because they realized that the knowledge, right, they were learning about different topics was creating better conditions for life in their communities. And the moment these students could make these connections, they were 100% in. They could learn anything at that moment.
Exactly. That's taken an interdisciplinary approach, which good PBL should take an interdisciplinary approach, but that also means getting our colleagues on board. And that might not always be
another
easy.
Huge challenge.
That's another problem.
Another huge challenge, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, dear Ron and Monica. There is also Micaela, Roxy, Santi, Fillmore, Rina, Sylvia, and Happy, Edwi. Is that well pronounced? I don't know if they want to make a comment or a question. Anybody
Hello.
else?
May I share something?
Of course, dear Fillmore from the Philippines.
Okay. Actually, agency is something that I encounter in my interest in literature, especially in study of metaphor. So usually when we treat people as objects, we deny them of agency. And in doing so, we deny them of their humanity. Unfortunately, sometimes we think of schools as factories, as if our children there are products that we're trying to create, to manufacture. And as long as we keep on using that metaphor, that children, students are products, that we teachers are the only source of information, that they should listen to us, that we should be the bosses of the classroom, that as long as we keep on, keep on sticking to that particular metaphor, then we will continue to deny our students with a so-called agency, and eventually they will end up as powerless human beings. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
dear.
so much for that contribution.
Okay. Back to you, dear Monica.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Yeah, it's all about, I call this, it's kind of difficult, but I always think that we need to humanize education once again, right? I think it all comes down to that through, of course, having an objective of excellence in everything we do. I mean, academic excellence should never be discussed. But I do believe that through rehumanizing education, once again, we can definitely achieve better. And we can definitely break some patterns. Of course, there is like the systemic approach, and we could discuss about that like forever, because the systemic approach is absolutely necessary. But I always say, in the meantime, when we teachers close the door, it is up to us, what happens in there. So we always also have a choice, right? Maybe it's a small choice. Maybe we won't change the system. Maybe the ministries of education will not change, their ways of formulating programs and everything. but it's a small change that might help and might impact. And I have seen this happen in our students' life quite deeply. So I think it's important to do that. Just another idea that I have implemented with students and works really, really well are Pecha Kucha presentations. Have you heard about Pecha Kucha presentations? No?
Never,
okay.
Never.
Okay. Pecha Kucha presentations, this is originally from Japan. Pecha Kucha nights are a phenomenon around the world. And the Pecha Kucha presentation has a very specific characteristic. And the characteristic is students have to choose a topic they love, and they have to create a presentations of 20 images. So it's 20-20. 20 images, 20 seconds per image. So students have to craft a compelling message about an important topic in 20 images, 20 seconds each. And another characteristic is no text should be included in the slides. So students should communicate about the importance of whatever idea they chose through the compelling images and through the wording and the words and whatever they choose to express the importance of the topic or the passion or whatever it is that they selected for the Pecha Kucha presentations. And this has helped. Of course, there are many, many ways we teachers can exploit this from the language development process naturally, but it's also about helping them find those things that they really care about. And this has been great with my teenage students in helping them identify what is it that they care for, you know, what is it that they would like to change in the world? What is that aspect that they want to work on? How they can create a plan, a process for changing those things. So the Pecha Kucha presentations are another great tool for students.
A good one.
And yeah.
Can I add there that, you know, I use this a lot. And I have to say that when you're using Pecha Kucha, it's really important to know that if you have a group and they all speak the same language, that you should teach them the format of Pecha Kucha first and let them learn it in their mother language before we move it to English, because that will reduce the stress and reduce the language problems that they'll have. So teaching them that, and I put a link in there about, you know, the Pecha Kucha site, so you could see what Pecha Kucha is, get some ideas. It is a very, very effective way of teaching language, but it will only work when they're comfortable in the language they're learning.
The language and the format.
And but so learning the format is the most important thing first, and let them do it in their mother language. Let them present that passion in Spanish or German or French or whatever. It's a great format. I highly recommend it. Thank you for mentioning that, because I always forget about it. I just take it for granted.
No, you should go back to that. And Ron, this brings me to another comment in the chat about the use of L1, you know, of our mother tongue and our languages. So thank you for sharing that it's important to give them space in our mother tongue, in our native language to do this and to practice first with the Pecha Kucha, but also when we talk about agency, you know, and this is something I always mention when I talk about social and emotional learning. I mean, in many cases, of course, the language of our emotions and the language of our passions is our native language, right? That's the language of emotions. So we need to be careful as teachers, because of course we are English language teachers. You know, I don't know about you, but when I was in teaching training college, speaking Spanish was a sin. Was an absolute sin, and you were a sinner, and you would go to teacher's hell if you spoke a word in Spanish.
And you were killing English, and you were killing the class, and you were killing and you were a criminal.
And yes, hopefully, and thanks God, nowadays we have a lot of research on these aspects. We know that we need to embrace, our native language, that it's in fact far more positive, to use, the language. So I'm coming back to something that appeared in the chat. And what happens when our students do not understand instructions and so on. At different moments as teachers, we need to know what is it that we are aiming at, right? And of course, 90% of our time will be developed to developing English language skills, right? And improving English language acquisition. This is what we do as teachers. But think about a 10% of your classes focusing on the human aspects, right? And for those, in many cases, our students will need to resource to their native language. They will need to, right? And in those moments is when we stop being English language teachers and we become educators. And of course, we are educators throughout the class, right? Because of how we choose to teach. But really think about ourselves not only as English language teachers, but as educators. And at some moments, we will need to leave the language aside. I know that many of you probably won't like this idea because we are still struggling. We are still struggling. As I said at the beginning, we struggle with different ideas, right? But I think it's really very important to know what the aim is. And at some moments, the aim is not only English language teaching.
Of course
should not, at least.
Of course.
I'd like to throw the word in understandability, because if we try to rob them of their mother language and they're not understanding what we want from them, then what are we going to accomplish?
That's the end of it.
They're going to feel bad. So this is why I let them speak in their mother language, and I will speak to them in German or Spanish and explain it to them, and we can converse like that. This is quite okay. This increases their confidence, and this,
Absolutely.
of course, so understandability, and we're going to always ask for that. I don't ask the stupid question, do you understand? But try to work around that to see that they do understand, and if they don't, I'll get somebody else to explain it in Spanish or in German, so that at least I know they're understanding what I want from them. Then that way they'll be able to complete the project or the task. So we can't rob them of their mother language. This is terrible. And I think that was something created by native English speakers because they couldn't speak Spanish or they couldn't speak French or German.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we must remember that the key point of the class is communication. Learning through English is just a tool, but it's not the aim 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, back to you, dear Monica.
Okay, so basically those were some ideas I wanted to share about the power of questioning. And I wanted to finish this session, these beautiful interchanges with all of you, my dear colleagues from around the world, with some coaching questions that might be helpful for us to rethink about what we do and to reconnect with some of our passions and the reason, probably, why we are teachers. So let me just change my presentation because I've got some other slides. And I would like you to take these phrases and these questions just for you to take into account and maybe also to use with your students. So let me share my screen again. And I guess we'll be finishing, right, Jaime?
Right,
we need to be finishing.
Okay.
So how about some of these questions? And this is about probably deep inquiry, not only inquiry-based learning, but also metacognition. As I always speak in my social and emotional learning sessions, emotional metacognition. How do you feel when you think about this? How important is this for you? But what have been the learnings in this process? And when you ask students these questions, probably you will get a wide array of answers that are probably not related to English. So you need to be ready for that, okay? What makes you think like this? What's your vision about the results of this situation. Imagine that you could take a picture when your objective is achieved. How would that look like? Can you describe it? If a friend or colleague had the same problem, what would you tell him or her? What would you do if failing was not a possibility? I love this one. How have you grown in this learning process? How have you developed as a human being? What can help you activate your plan? What's stopping you? What is between you and your objective? What are the blockers? And what are the enablers for you as a learner? And these are, I think, great questions for us teachers as well, right? So just some samples of the power of questioning, right? Before we finish our session today. Okay, let me just share again, because maybe you can take a picture and, you know, get the questions for you and for your students. And you will know how to use them best with your different sets of students. Okay, I think we've come to the end.
Yeah,
right?
now if you stop showing your screen, please.
Yes, done.
Okay, is it okay? now the screen is mine back again. Well, before we go back to everyone's opinions and ideas and questions about this great presentation, let me start. Something, as I said before, something that I love about this presentation is what you said about stop judging. I remember the son of a friend of mine. He unfortunately committed suicide, and it happened like 2 years ago in Lima, Peru. And then she was traveling somewhere, she didn't know about it, and somebody, and the television channels and newspapers post the news. Okay, and then everybody started criticizing this mother, why she was not around, and that is something that happens thanks to the social media now, that we feel free to judge everyone. It doesn't matter what you do, what you say, but there are always people criticizing. And I think that is something that happens also in our classrooms. And we teachers, we should not do that. We should remember that we are working with human beings. And I always say this in my presentation. You can be a PhD, a book writer, a master, you can be the light in the dark, but you are another human being. You are not superior and the students are not inferior. So that is something that I take away from this presentation, and also humility over pride. And we should evolve our thinking, our beliefs, that and also we should truly listen not only to our students, as I said in the interview at the beginning, Monica, but also our children, our husbands, our wives, our colleagues, our friends. So thank you, dear Monica, for such a wonderful presentation as usual. This is the third one. The fourth one with us, I guess, I do not remember. I don't know if somebody else, Beth, Habj, Micaela, Roxy, Santi, Fillmore, Rina, Sylvia, Deborah, Mary, and Ron want to say something else.
Well, I can say that I added some things there to kind of, add to what Monica was saying about questions. There's a PDF I put there about reflection questions. Questions are not just, we need to have questions for reflection after learning, but also before learning too. That is put out by a teachers group. And then there's Teach Thought, which I added a link to, which is 30 questions every student should be able to answer. Because we got to teach students how to deal with questions and, and let them reflect and find answers to that. So that's why I put those skills there. Thank you, Monica, for a great talk today.
And thank you, dear Ron, for such great contributions. Now, Hackby, Edwin, is that well pronounced? Hackby? Your microphone, dear Hackby. You need to switch on your microphone. It's off. Okay, meanwhile, Micaela in Peru.
Hello, Jaime. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say that it's important for teachers to speak in Spanish to the kids during the English class, because sometimes they don't understand, and we have to explain what is the meaning, especially in basic levels, I think, because in the institute that I work for, they say that we speak English during all the levels. So I don't agree with that, because it's important that on the beginning, you don't scare the students. Everything in English, it's hard for them. And then they get to use, when they build more vocabulary, they can speak more fluency. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Micaela. Roxana in Lima, Peru.
Yes, thank you again. I would like to emphasize that, Monica, you have really sparked us today. We have been enlightened. We have refreshed some ideas. I love the idea of voice and choice, especially with large groups of students, because we give them the possibility to express themselves. We can show them and give them the chance to tell us that they are meaningful to us, they mean something to us individually, that their thoughts are important, because sometimes at home, they don't have that chance. They are just networking, they are just with the computer, with the laptops or tablets, and they are not communicating. And given this space and this opportunity in classes, not only for the teaching purpose, but for expressing their feelings and their ideas, it's like giving the opportunity to say, okay, I am somebody, I am important for my teacher. I'm somebody else here. I'm not just one more in the group. And that is really significant and important. And the level of stress immediately decreases automatically. Absolutely. Because I feel at ease, I feel in a comfort and in a nice environment, and I can express myself even I'm making mistakes. So thank you very much.
Yes, and also because we know that we are social beings, okay? Our brain is pro-social. So whenever we feel part of something, and that means feeling heard, feeling seen, and that we as teachers, probably we will not be able, as I said, because we need to be realistic, okay? Maybe we will not be able to meet those 40 demands, right? Specific personalized demands, but we can create certain level of choice that also gives them voice, right? Exactly. If you have to teach a specific, I don't know, list of vocabulary items, or you need to teach passive voice or whatever it is, you can ask your students, how would you feel more comfortable about this? And I'm going back into Ron's idea of the flipped model. Would you like me to send a short video beforehand so that you get an idea and then we get together and discuss? Would you like to do this through listening? Would you like me to explain? I mean, 2 choices, 3 choices. Would you like to learn this from a peer learning? You know, a limited set of choices is still a choice for them, you know, and we can still do it and be realistic about what we can actually do in terms of personalization. But they need, as you very well said, this, well, we know it decreases the affective filters and everything that we know from the research.
Thank you. Now I guess Hackby can speak now. Hackby, is that the way you pronounce your name?
Oh, yeah, it's Hackby. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Where
evening.
are you? Where are you from? Where are you listening from?
I'm listening from Cameroon, Yaoundé.
Oh, welcome. Morning,
Thank you.
afternoon, night in Cameroon?
Okay, it's evening in Cameroon.
Okay. Go on, please, dear Hackby. We're listening to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving me the floor. First, I would like to say that I was very interested by the topic on questions, because as we are teachers, EFL teachers, for example, in Cameroon, in where I'm teaching, we have a lot of Francophones. So we are teaching them English. That's why I was asking the question. Interactions in class are not very, are not so common, are not easy to achieve, because most of the students are Francophones and they have limited exposure to English language. I mean, to English language discourse. So I was asking, what do you think we can do to boost interaction?
All right.
Because
And you
if we have to vary the questions, at times they do not understand the questions we ask.
Right, right.
And do you work with the school students or university students, dear Hatbe?
Okay, at times, in fact, I'm a secondary teacher, and at times I have a few courses in private universities, and I keep facing the same problem.
Okay.
And I was very happy. Somebody said it wasn't a crime to start to tolerate the first language of the students in an English language class, because when we were being trained, it was clear that they do not want us to say anything in the source language, everything in English. And at times it was really hard getting yourself understood by those students.
Okay, thank you, dear Hagby. Anybody else before Monica's final words today in her presentation?
Sorry, Jaime, I would like to say something else about this.
Go on, Monica, sorry.
Thank you, Javi, for sharing also your reality. It's really very important for us teachers to understand that in our different countries, we all have different realities, right? And you are dealing with these interferences from French in this case, and this is our reality. The best we can do as teachers is to do the best we can with the tools we've got. So I would like to say that maybe it's not only about tolerating the language, it's about embracing it so that you can use as a force for them to learn the new language, in this case, English, maybe through comparison. You know, we were also told that we should never, you know, compare English with Spanish or English with French in your case. But it's not only about tolerating, but about embracing that resource that you've got in your classes, that is the more natural use of French, is a tool for you as well. So we need to stop seeing things as enemies, you know, but thinking how we can use this in our own process for our own benefit as English teachers, right? And this is part of their reality. We learn about things in life, we learn skills through living them. If your reality is that you have French present, we need to embrace that, incorporate that, because that's the way they will feel identified as who they are. This is part of their identity as students. And this is a very powerful thing in our lives, our identities. And this could be a great engine for English language teaching as well. That's only my opinion, all right?
No,
Sorry, I got carried away.
Monica, and we respect it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, and Monica, to what you're saying is, and you're not saying that, but you really are, is, you know, by allowing our students to use their mother language, that's who they identify with. I totally agree. And that's how they develop, you know, their egos. It's a psychological aspect of learning a language. And when they're going to develop themselves in a second language, that's called second language ego development. And that's that psychological aspect of language learning that we cannot forget You know, people think
It
that when
is.
they start learning another language, they become another person. Well, they don't actually. And that's what I believe.
They don't, and that's the point. And we are acknowledging who they are. Very important in any learning process, right? Acknowledging who they are and where they are at this moment.
I had a little girl, it was two sisters, and I asked them in English what their name was, and she started crying. And I said, why are you crying? And of course I said it in German. She goes, I don't know what my name is in English.
Exactly.
Wonderful. I love the idea of they are not a different person once they start learning a new language. Thank you, dear Ron. Anybody else, please? Because it's almost 1 o'clock in Argentina. Time for lunch for dear Monica and her family. I guess.
May I?
Of course, dear Fillmore.
Yes, I would like to highlight only what Monica shared earlier about choices. I think giving students choices is very powerful. Number one, it creates ownership. And once students feel that they own this learning space, they'll be able to contribute. And number two, by giving them choices, you honor their agency. And when they feel that they are involved, instead of fighting or fleeing, they will engage. And you and your students will eventually become co-learners in this wonderful learning environment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Thank you. Well, yes, Deborah.
Sorry, I thank you. There's just so much that you've shared with us, and so much to think about. But I just want to say thank you so much. I just love this presentation and all the ideas that it has sparked. But I'm really left, and I'm going to be thinking about this after we hang up. But I'm really left with the power of the questions for our students, but also for ourselves, and what can happen in that classroom when we are all coming to these questions together. And then, as you said, leaving that space for silence and for thinking. It's just incredibly powerful. And I just want to say thank you so much. I'm going to be thinking a lot about what you shared. So thank you, Monica. Thank you.
That's good. It's about rethinking. Remember, Deborah, it's about asking new questions and asking ourselves new questions as teachers, right?
Yeah. Well, dear Monica, thank you so much for such wonderful presentation. As I said before, I do not remember if it is the third one, the fourth one, but every time we listen to you, we learned many, many things. We reflect, we understand we are nothing, that we know nothing, and that's good because there is always something to learn. And that is something that I guess we teachers, educators love about our profession, right? And we are passionate learners, always trying to learn. So now it's time for you, Monica, for your final words today in this presentation. And thank you once again. And thank you everyone here in the audience and the people who are following us in Facebook Live. Go back to you, Monica.
So just a few words to highlight the importance again of the community. I loved sharing this time with you because we are helping, I don't know if you noticed the cycle, but we are helping each other rethink about things again and again and again. And through sharing, through sharing resources, through sharing ideas, through sharing experiences, we are enriching ourselves so much. This is a power of community. So thank you, Jaime, once again. I'm very happy whenever I come and visit and share my little bit. But thank all of you for building this learning space together. This is something we do, I always talk about the power of the circle, right? Where we sit right next to each other. And I hope our classrooms would also reflect this idea that we are not over anyone else, right? Today, it happens that I am sharing some ideas, but it's just from the perspective of sharing. We are all equals, let's say, from the learner's point of view. So that's the one thing I'm taking away from you, and I've learned a lot of things too. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, and thanks to everyone who's been here in the audience. And now we are going to have like a long stop because of the oral exams of Cambridge here in Piura, Peru. So we have to travel to some cities to take these exams. So we will be back on December the 4th with our roundtable, expressing our gratitude and the impact it has on us, given by Mary Scholl, Raj Jill from Canada, and myself. So
unmissable, unmissable.
please.
You cannot miss that session.
Yes. So thank you everyone here in the audience. Thank you once again. Let me see the names. Roxy, Deborah, Ron, Fillmore, Micaela, Mary. Hello, Mary. See you on December the 4th, dear Mary.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Santi, Silvia, Maria, Rina, Sabir, Ahmed, and Beth, and everyone else in Facebook Live. Goodbye. Have a beautiful Sunday. Goodbye.
Enjoy Sunday. Bye. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks,
Stay
everyone.
safe.
Bye, San.
Thank you, dear Monica, once again. Bon
Thank you.
appetit.
Bye, Santi.
Thank you, Jaime. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, Micaela. Goodbye. See you. Thank you, Deborah.
See you.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Hadbe. See you next week. See you on December the 4th.